Okay. So we are live. We are live. Think so. Make sure we get this going. Somehow I do not hear the audio, which is a big problem. It's a very big problem. Okay. So according to YouTube and everything, we've got a pretty good stream. Let me start my meeting. So I think we got a really good topic going here. Okay. I'm about to launch Zoom just in case anybody wants to jump on. And I think there's a problem here. That is not the title of this presentation. That is most definitely not the title of this presentation. Okay. Just getting everything going and situated. Hopefully this is going to be a good one. Okay. All right. So, is your text game stopping you from finding the right person? Okay. So now this is a really great topic, and let me tell you why it's very important inside of dating. Okay. Most people are using the medium of texting to interact with their right person. Now, this is very important because what everybody tends to have on them is their phone, and this is like their source of communication for dating. We interact through apps, dating apps, as well as email and other forms of communication, but primarily people communicate nowadays primarily through texting. Now, using this medium, it's opens up. It's a great way for communication, but then it also has a lot of pros and cons associated with this form of media. And one of the biggest concerns with this form of media is having your message not aligning with exactly what you're trying to communicate. So, this is why it's very important that you have a very concise and succinct message when you are using texting and video chats and other forms of communication using your phone. So, what do you need to keep in mind when you are beginning to text your significant person or person of interest is to have a specific goal in mind. The goal should not be to live in the realm of constantly going back and forth with texting. The goal is to make plans, set a destination, have an end goal in mind. So every text that you send or every form of communication you use through the medium of the phone, you should be able to know what you're doing before you even pick up the phone. So take for example, a lot of people tend to think constantly trading texts back and forth with the individual is a good form of communication, but ideally it should be short communications that have an end in mind. So keep that in mind. So let's talk about this topic now, okay? Is your text game really stopping you from finding the right person and what you're looking for? What I'm going to do is I am going to go to the internet and see kind of like what are some of the common concerns and thoughts for people that are out there, and basically see what they are saying in regards to texting and interaction. So let's see. Okay, so I had the phone lines open in case anybody wants to have any comments or questions. Feel free to say something. I'm about to take a look. So texting, dating and texting. Okay. All right. My computer's going slow because I'm streaming. It's going very slow. Okay, so ideally I want to just take a look at what messaging and texting mistake people make when dating. Okay, so I'm just going to take a look right now. This comes from Cosmopolitan. Okay, I don't want to. Oh, jeez. Okay. So according to this article, and this is very interesting. So women are sharing what puts them off in the messaging stage of dating, and I'm just going to read through some of what this person, I think her name is Paisley Gilmore. Okay. Because thanks to lockdown, loads of us are stuck in this phase right now. And it brings up a very good point about how the virus has really changed the dating world and why it's important for you to really be able to master these different platforms, seeing how it's the primary source of communication for a lot of people out there. So, according to an article, it is or not, virtual dating is a huge thing right now. So whether you're using dating apps to meet new potential partners or considering entering into something a little bit more romantic with someone you already know, chances are you're doing a lot of messaging. This is probably true. Okay, dating apps have found the amount of time people spend messaging their matches has increased. It says this means people are having deeper, more meaningful conversations. This is clearly the opinions of the article, but we're going to continue to move forward, okay? So, at a time when loads of us are stuck in the perpetual messaging stage of dating, women are sharing the red flags and deal breakers that come out during the talking bit. And this is women's opinions or views or how they perceive this to be a big issue. So let's go through it because I'm interested in finding out what are some of their concerns. Okay. Number one, mind games. What I loved about my husband is he didn't care much. Okay, mind games. What I loved about my husband is he didn't care how much he texted or called, just because he enjoyed talking to me and wasn't afraid to show it via. And that's all. That's all. That's kind of like an incomplete. Okay, so number two, talking shit about an ex It's fine to mention the reason for the breakup. She wanted to get married and have kids, and I wasn't ready. But be respectful. If he calls her a bitch, then just let me know how he might talk about me one day. Via. Okay. Number three. Any anything that's even has a whiff of sexualism or racism to it. Via. Number four. Trying too hard. It sounds mean, but guys generally killed my interest because he kept trying to change himself to fit what he thought I wanted. I love or value sincerity. Okay. Well, this is interesting because I could even mention that that's kind of outside of the realm of Texan because it's more or less about a characteristic about who he is and how he's approached to dating. But I'm just doing a little deeper dive inside of it. All right, number five. When they're incapable of making full conversations, people who constantly ask, "How are you? What are you doing?" again and again might lose interest very fast. That's a very good point. See, that just like we stated before, texting with a purpose in mind, okay? Okay. Number six, not asking me questions. It shows me that you're not genuinely interested in getting to know me. I ask questions. I like it when it's more conversational. And this brings up a really great point because a lot of conversations are, if you feel as though you're constantly asking questions or trying to procure information from the other individual, then I'm telling you right now, that's probably not a good sign for the date or even hopes of even progressing further than just the interaction of the texting or if you're in the same proximity of the individual that you're with. So your conversations are supposed to be free flowing. They're supposed to have purpose. They're supposed to be organic. So let me give you an example. So let's say you're on a date and you're having these social interactions with somebody, and you're like, "Oh, where do you live? What do you like to do?" And you just keep going back and forth with questions to understand the person. Then I'm telling you right now, you're probably having a terrible date and you're probably not going to go far. So, with that being said, what are some of the good signs that you're heading in the right path on a date? Well, the conversations need to be organic, and let's delve into this. So let's say you bring up a certain concept like, man, this you receive your meal, and let's say you're on a date and you just received your entree, and you take a bite out of the rice or chicken, and you're like, wow, this chicken reminds me of exactly how my grandmother used to spend all day um, slaving over a stove, and it brings out the, I don't know, the savory flavor of the lemon peppered um, whatever it is seasoning on the chicken. Now that, and she chimes in and says, "Well, this is my favorite food," and blah blah blah. That's kind of a free flowing conversation that things are going, and you need to build off of that. So you always have to have that interactions where one set of responses leads to another inquiry about the person. So keep that in mind. That is highly, highly important. So we stopped at number six. So we're going to number seven, right? Number seven, taking way too long to actually meet up after weeks of texting and calls. Not sure what they're waiting on. That is a very valid point. I often tell a lot of my clients that once you get the telephone number, you should be using your phone as a means to get that date. So when you're texting, the idea is to meet up, and it doesn't have to be long-winded or it doesn't have to go to a fancy restaurant or something. But the idea is to interact, because if you're trying to develop a relationship with a person, you can't constantly do it through the phone in the terms of social media or texting and whatnot. So you have to develop people skills, which is sadly lacking with the advent of each one of these new apps or social media platforms. I like to think of it as bringing back the traditional old school way of interaction. So keep that in mind when you're talking with people. Okay? Okay. 8. Being condescending or thinking that you know everything better. I could see why this is a concern. That goes without saying. Number 9. Being boring and being negative about everything. I need some positive energy in my life. And I say this all the time. When you have this positive energy or positive aura about yourself, you're more likely to be successful. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind, okay? Number 10. One time in the talking phase, I sent a Snapchat to a guy in which I was wearing a tank top. He he used that as an opportunity to compliment me, my meat pillows, and then spent the rest of the morning making weird, overly sexual comments. I don't think I ever lost interest in someone so promising so fast. I'm not a prude. I'm not against sexting or anything, but he kept pushing it. Even when I tried changing the subject multiple times. Also, meat pillows? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Yeah. And I see this way too often that people get too sexual way too fast. I mean, you need to get to know, get a read of the person before you can even delve into that realm. But it goes without saying. Good rule of thumb is this a topic you would be bringing up in the presence of your sister or brother? Then maybe this is not something that needs to be spoken during the early sets of getting to interact when you start to interact with the person. So, moving right along. Number 11. When I disagree with a thought that's shared and they get defensive instead of listening to the opinion that I'm sharing. And this is very valid because nobody's going to agree with everything you say or all your opinions. So you need to have an open mind about differences of opinion, because you, despite how well you know somebody or even interact with them often, you have to keep in mind that you're not gonna you're not gonna have all the same opinions, likes, and preferences, and that's understandable because the season into life is variety, and it goes without saying, especially when you begin to start to date and everything, that people come with their own preferences and ways of doing things. So something to keep in mind. Number 12, if I'm putting in more effort than the person to keep the conversation going, especially if I'm always have to initiate or say hi first. And this is a good point. People that are interested in getting to know you, you have to follow through with the right body actions. So something that you need to think about is when you're texting, you're supposed to have some critical elements that are all supposed to be aligned with each other. So you have to have the right attitude. You have to behave in the same manner with the aligned with that attitude. You have to be able to communicate that thought clearly and succinctly. And number 4, but as important as the other ones, is you would have to make sure that your digital imprint out there in the world is aligned with the first three. So keep that in mind when you're texting, okay? So currently we're on 12, and I think according to this article, it ends with number 12. But I think we got some really good information from there. I would like to hear your thoughts. Hope somebody says something. I have this platform out there, so feel free to call in if you have some dating questions or if you want to just get online and have a conversation. We can walk you through give you some pointers or advice to take your game to the next level. That's the goal. Okay. So I'm sitting here and I'm just going to be waiting, and hopefully I get some kind of response. Okay. All right. Let's see what we got here. Okay. Ooh. Okay. Make sure I spelled stopping right. There we go. Perfect, 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 perfect. Okay. 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 All right. Okay. All right, all right, all right. So is texting stopping you from getting the right person, or is it enhancing a lot of your swag? Let me know, people. Let me know. What do you think? I know that it has really helped and also destroyed a lot of interactions, and I would hate that for somebody else to go through some of those complications or hardships that I have, but it's part of the nature of the game. Okay. So what are some of the what are some exercises to become a better texter? Well, let's think about this. Let's really think about this, okay? So, a lot of people don't know what they don't know. So, the first thing is to become an informed individual before you take certain actions of investing a lot of energy or even texting somebody. So, I highly encourage people to do two things is to read up about more or less about social interactions primarily before I even start thinking about texting and even thinking about relationships and moving forward with that. I have a lot of good books that I could recommend as well that have really helped me get my game to the next level, which I encourage somebody to reading and consuming before they start delving into that part of relationships and interacting. So, with that being said, I think I might be ending this stream early. I think I'm going to be shutting down the chat. Okay. It's been really good. It's been really good. All right. All right. What I'm hoping to do is try and jump on here every other day and give everybody a little bit of some value and some tips and tricks that have really helped me out inside of the dating realm. And hopefully you're able to have a lot more positive results than I did initially. And the goal is to kind of like shorten that learning curve. So, is your texting game slowing you down from meeting the right person? Make sure that you're learning about yourself and providing the other person value, and you should be fine. And these are some skill sets that will not only help you with your communication and texting, but also in your interactions, even when you meet the person in person. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. This is Dial Stew channel. I'm glad that you spent your evening with me. We'll be ending this stream and look forward to seeing you in the next couple of nights. So that will mean around Friday night. And we're going to be giving you value, tons of value, tons of value. And, you know, make use of the information that I provided, and hopefully you don't have the same setbacks texting. Good night, people.